the Apple Mac Mini M2 improves upon what was already a reasonably enticing offer on the finest compact PC for the majority of people, by being quicker and more affordable than its predecessor. Given how similar the Mac Mini M2 looks to the Mac Mini M1 that Apple released in 2020, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference by looking at it. But what matters most is what's inside. The Mac Mini M2, like its predecessor, is the first Apple desktop to receive an upgrade with Apple's newest piece of custom silicon, the M2 processor. For the first time, you can select to replace the Mac Mini with the M2 Pro, an even more potent model. Both the M2 and the M2 Pro outperform the older M1 chips, while providing superior performance and more features. I'm certain that the new Mac Mini M2 with M2 Pro is among the greatest laptops available after testing and reviewing it, especially if you're seeking for a tiny powerhouse that looks well on a desk. Orders for the Mac Mini M2 can be placed on Apple's website starting at $599, and deliveries will begin on January 24th. The entry-level model includes an M2 chip with a 256GB SSD for storage, an 8-core CPU, a 10-core GPU, and 8GB of memory. I don't mind that the Mac Mini M2's appearance is essentially identical to that of the Mac Mini M1 at all. The diminutive Mac Mini M2 fits into a variety of desk configurations, thanks to its dimensions of 7.7 by 7.7 by 1.4 inches, and weight of slightly under 3 pounds. With rounded sides and a silvery aluminum chassis with a large black Apple logo on top, it also has a nice appearance. I like it because it looks like a metallic Apple emblem protruding from your desk. Like its predecessor, the elevated base of the Mac Mini M2 tapers down from the rounded rectangular chassis to a round black plastic disc that covers the bottom, giving the impression that it is floating slightly above your desk. These devices are made to only be serviced by Apple. Do not anticipate opening the case or changing the internals yourself. The back of the Mac Mini M2 has a respectable selection of connectors, and if you upgrade to a Mac Mini M2 Pro, it becomes even better. A pair of Thunderbolt 4 USB 4 ports, another pair of USB 8 connectors, an HDMI out, an Ethernet port, and a 3.5mm audio jack are included in the base model. For a total of 4 Thunderbolt 4 ports when you upgrade to the Mac Mini M2 Pro. The M2 Pro's increased power also allows for better support for external displays. This is also a strength of the entry-level Mac Mini, which can support up to 2 external screens with the same maximum resolutions, 6K via Thunderbolt 4, 4K. The M2 Pro model is the only Mac Mini with the ability to accommodate an 8K or 240Hz display, though. I found the Mac Mini M2, with the updated M2 Pro chip inside, to be more than capable of handling just about anything I throw at it in my time using it for business and play. With apps like Lightroom opening almost instantly, I had no issues switching between 30+ tabs in Chrome and Safari, while playing a game and listening to music in windowed mode. The fact that titles like Metro Exodus and Resident Evil Village ran better than I anticipated on the enhanced M2 Pro processor also surprised me. Let's first discuss the findings from our internal performance testing lab, before I briefly discuss actual game performance metrics. I was impressed but not blown away when we initially evaluated Apple's M2 chip in the MacBook Air M2 and the 13-inch MacBook Pro M2. In our performance testing, the M2 chip significantly outperformed the M1, but it was more of an evolution than the revolutionary change I had hoped for, after witnessing the amazing performance of the M1 Pro and M1 Max chips in Apple's 2021 MacBook Pros. I have a whole newfound respect for Apple's silicon because of those improved M1 chips, which are just monstrous. I now get to see what an updated M2 can accomplish when it's in a desktop Mac, which is why I was so thrilled to learn that Apple was sending us an upgraded Mac Mini with an M2 Pro processor for evaluation. After putting the Mac Mini with M2 Pro through our battery of performance tests, I'm happy to report that it is more than capable of handling everything except intense gaming and labor-intensive content creation. The Mac Mini with M2 Pro is more than capable for your needs, if all you need is a lightning-fast Mac for working, browsing the web, and playing games. Our evaluation unit scored 15,038 on the Geekbench 5.4 multi-core CPU benchmark when we put it to the test. That's decent and better than the M1 Pro chip score, 12,477, from our testing of the 2021 MacBook Pro. Of course, the top tier of Intel's newest 13th gen CPUs, which are just now entering the market, can't compete with the M2 Pro in our Mac Mini review unit. I am aware of this because the 13th gen Core i9 CPU we recently tested in an Origin PC clocked in at 24,054 in the multi-core category of the same Geekbench 5.4 benchmark. However, the M2 Pro performs really well for a Mac Mini, and in my experience, it can manage multitasking with as many apps and browser tabs as you like. We installed Puget Bench on our review device, and gave it a test run to see how it performed in Adobe software suite. The Mac Mini M2 produced results that are impressive for its size using this software, which is used to measure a PC's performance in the most popular Adobe applications. Our review device outperformed the Mac Mini M1 by a wide margin, scoring 964 in the Puget Bench Photoshop benchmark, and 847 in the Premiere Pro benchmark, which struggled to even run the tests, though that may have something to do with the fact that it was the first time we were running them on silicon from Apple, instead of Intel or AMD. Let's talk about gaming on the Mac Mini M2 last. With a 12-core CPU and a 19-core GPU, the top-tier M2 Pro processor Apple included in our review machine is capable of running several of the most recent games at dependable frame rates, with graphics set to medium or higher. Obviously not developed for gaming, the Mac Mini M2 can nonetheless play many of the most recent Mac-compatible games at 1080p or higher, and a model with a fully loaded M2 Pro CPU and 16 gigs of RAM will perform admirably. These games aren't the most recent releases, but we use them to measure performance because they work on a variety of Mac and Windows PCs. These results showed that the Mac Mini M2 is more than capable of playing the finest Mac games, especially when completely upgraded, even though they don't compare well to the best gaming PCs. It's not difficult to recommend the Mac Mini M2 after testing it for a while. The base model is de facto the best option for anyone looking for a mini Mac desktop, because it is quicker and more affordable than its predecessor. Additionally, it is a welcome option to update it with an M2 Pro chip, which can transform this PC into a passable gaming machine. Although it cannot match the greatest gaming PCs now available, it is still significantly less expensive, smaller, and quieter. Actually, the absence of official macOS compatibility for many games is what severely restricts the gaming potential of the Mac Mini M2. While investing in a Mac Studio with M1 Ultra or a vintage Mac Pro will allow you to have a Mac desktop with higher raw performance, both of those options will set you back several $1,000s more than a fully upgraded Mac Mini M2 Pro. For those who need them, they're wonderful PCs, but for the majority of us, the new Mac Mini M2 seems like a good deal that offers power and variety at a low cost. Thank you for watching this review. I hope it was useful for you. Have a nice day and see you soon.